Yep, yep. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the communications workshop. This is number 2 of 3 on Eclipse Day, April 8th. We're so glad to have you all here after we've all witnessed this natural phenomenon. Um, this we're going to have some time at the end for Q&A, but this is probably our most casual workshop. We've got some treats for you later on where we've got some performances by your best friend league members, and it'll be fun to see how that goes. But let's start off with Denise, who's going to get us going on some of the basics. Go ahead, Denise.
Okay, do you want to start the PowerPoint?
Yes, I will.
That'd be
Just a
great.
second.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so in this little workshop, we're going to talk about speaking with the media and then speaking with, in personal relationships. So contrasting those two. Whoops, if you can go back to the first one. There we go. So when you're talking with the media, oops, I got to get my own thing going here. Okay, just a sec. Oh. Oh gosh. All right, I'm sorry. I'm having technical problems with myself here.
That's okay. We're in the casual workshop.
Yeah. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. I need to figure out.
Everybody can identify.
Oh, here it is. It's hidden behind my other screen. Okay, let's go back. Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, starting afresh here. Whoops.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
You get the big preview.
I know. I got to start over.
All right. This is our April Fool. No, just kidding.
Good thing it's casual.
Right. Casual day. Casual day at the league. Oh, I'll get Mary Kay in. There we go.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Just a second. I got to fix it here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Slideshow from beginning. From beginning. Come on. Shoot.
That's interesting.
I'm sorry.
Being weird.
Why is it not doing that?
I don't know.
Hold on just a minute.
Okay.
I'm getting rid of this one.
It's the eclipse.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something's wrong with the electromagnetic field. It's affecting our computers.
I'm getting there, really.
I believe you. Well, so I'll just say that where I got a lot of this information was from various workshops that were really helpful. So I was just trying to pull together some highlights. And then it struck me that, we don't just talk to the media, we also talk to just people we know. And so it might be interesting to compare and contrast the two a little bit and pass along some tips for each. So that's where the idea for this came from.
Can you see that?
Not yet. It's not sharing somehow.
Oh my.
Well,
no, just a minute.
Yeah.
Not gonna win.
Oh, okay, we're sharing.
There it is.
We're sharing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Right. Oh, we got it. All right. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Woohoo. All right. So here we are. So when you're talking with the media, the main emphasis is on the message, not on your relationship with the reporter, the journalist. So in this case, the message is predominant. Of course, you don't want to, be mean to the person or alienate them, but the main point is getting your message across. Okay, we can go to the next slide. There we go. All right. So what are the boundaries? When you're talking to the media, you want to keep in mind that the league speaks with one voice. And what that means
Mhm.
is you check before you speak that you're authorized to speak on behalf of the league. And at the local level, that generally means that you are your local league's leader or their designee, and that you are speaking about local matters. Other boundaries are your power to say no. You can say no to an interview. You can say no to a particular question. You can refer the inquiry to another organization or person if that seems like a more appropriate source for the journalist. And it's also
Mhm.
okay when you're in the midst of an interview for there to be silence. You don't have to hurry to speak just to fill in a silence. When you are interacting with a reporter, you should assume that any communication that you offer is on the record. Even if they say it's off the record, it's always on the record.
Mhm.
And so that includes your emails, your texts, and replies to questions before and after the formal part of the interview. So if you're like walking out the door and they say, "Oh, say, what about blah, blah, blah," like that's still on the record.
Mhm.
So be careful about stuff like
Okay.
that. Okay, what are your goals? When you are speaking with the media, you're trying to reach your intended audience. You're not trying
Okay.
to do anything with the journalists. They are just the vehicle for reaching your intended audience through whatever their media outlet is. And then secondly, your goal is to convey to that audience this is jargon, your single overriding communications objective, or SOCO, which is kind of weird, but that's the jargon apparently. Okay, so how can you do this? What tactics can you use? Well, first of all, you have to check that the media outlet you're engaging with actually will reach your intended audience. When you're talking to the interviewer, you want to picture the people that you want to reach and speak to them, thinking about how much they are likely to know or not know about your topic, like as you're framing what you're saying. It's best if you can provide written materials in advance, if that's possible. It's good to include a contact, and that might be you, and any sources for statistics that you may be citing. And so that could come in the form of a media release. You could also have FAQs, or frequently asked questions, that you could provide. And then, of course, before your interview, you're going to want to be, deeply familiar with your SOCO, your single overriding communications objective, what that one simple, clear point is that you want your audience to take away. So it's good if you can in advance to practice interviewing, with somebody like a friend or a family member who can ask you questions that are unrelated to your SOCO, so that then you can practice not answering the question that someone just asked you and pivot your interview back to your SOCO. And the one that I liked in the demonstration I saw was, what voters really need to know is, and then you get back to whatever your main point is, like, and just totally ignore whatever question they just asked you. And you've probably heard that, like I listen to the radio a lot, and I've heard that where I'm like, wait a minute, that person didn't even answer the question that the journalist asked them. And I'm like, kind of aghast, that someone could do that. But that is like standard practice for people who are being interviewed, and someone's trying to lead them away from the point that they want to make. So just know that that's something you can do. If you are on video, you have to work really hard to manage your body language. That's super hard for me because I tend to make faces. You have to try to stay neutral, especially if the interviewer makes some kind of political remark. Like if they mention someone's name and you make a face, that's not going to be a good move. And then this was an interesting tip that I had never thought of. It said if you're on audio only, you should smile as you speak so that you have this smiley sound in your voice. And I'm like, okay, that might be hard for me to do too, but these are good things to think about. It's great to share compelling personal experiences because those can really bring home to somebody whatever your SOCO is, your main point. But you have to be careful not to give a personal opinion. And then, as we have all learned when we're talking about mis and disinformation, you correct the misinformation, but you don't repeat it, because if you repeat it, it emphasizes it, and we don't want to emphasize it. Okay, now we're going to have our fun example.
Well, I want to.
Go ahead.
For me, yes. I want to introduce two of our league members who are going to give us an example of an interviewer and a league member who is being interviewed. Our reporter tonight is Donna Mullins from the Lansing League. Raise your hand, Donna. Hi. And Marcia Kappa is going to be our league member who has been set up with Donna for this interview. So Marcia, if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, got it.
All right. Let's go ahead with our reporter and our league member. Take it away, ladies.
Well, good morning, Jane. Thank you for joining me on WLFZ this morning as we discuss elections in Michigan. First, can you tell me what the League of Women Voters is all about?
The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan group whose mission is to empower voters and protect democracy. We've been around for 104 years, and we've made up over 2,600 volunteers in Michigan alone. We work to inform voters about their rights and choices concerning elections.
Well, that's great. And there are a lot more choices than there used to be, right? Voters can vote early, at home, and even without an ID, right?
Yes, there are more opportunities for voters to vote, to exercise their right to vote, but all voters must provide their ID somewhere in the chain of securing a ballot.
A lot of people are saying that the voting machines are connected to the internet and that this is where fraud can happen.
That is not true. Every clerk is required by law to hold a public demonstration of voting tabulators so people can see how they work. Or the public can enter a polling place on election day and see that there's only one plug from the tabulator to the wall socket, not into a computer.
I have always said that the greatest chance for fraud is with absentee ballots.
Michigan's elections are safe and secure. There are numerous checks that must be made by clerks at township and city clerk's offices after an application for an absentee ballot is received or the ballot itself before the ballot can be counted. One of those checks is a signature matching check. If the signature doesn't match, the voter is asked to come in and cure their signature, which does sometimes needs to be updated. Anyone who wants to see how this process works is welcome to go to the clerk's office to watch this in person. Like all election work, it is all public.
Well, what about people who vote during the early voting days and then vote again on election day?
Well, that is definitely called election fraud. There are plenty of double checks in the system to make sure that this will never happen. No voter can ever be given more than one ballot. That's why the line to get a ballot on election day can be so long. The workers are checking to see if an absentee ballot was issued already, or if the voter already came in and voted on early voting day. It's pretty foolproof.
Well, that explains why the process takes so long sometimes.
We all have to remember that poll workers are essential volunteers. They get a small stipend, but work a very long day, usually 15 hours. And they're doing that to help all of us exercise our right to vote. Almost all clerks are looking for more poll workers. So if you want to learn more about the election process and have an interesting day, call your clerk and volunteer to work on election day. Many League of Women Voter members already do this, and that's one of the reasons we're so knowledgeable about our elections work.
Well, thanks for joining me, Jane. I learned a lot today.
Don't forget to vote August 6th and November 5th.
Yay for Marcia and Donna. Thank you. You guys were great. I want to go back to sharing screen for just a moment, which I know is a challenge for me. Here is, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the reflections about what this interview demonstrated. First, and this is important for all of us, have your elevator speech ready. If you don't know what that is, think about going into an elevator. Somebody asks you as you're just starting to go up, hey, what does the League of Women Voters do? And you only have 1 or 2 floors to explain that. Have a good bit of information ready that you can just spew off in 1 or 2 sentences. Very helpful to tell people what that information is. And it doesn't always have to be the same. It can be, sometimes I know I've said to people after they couldn't figure out who we were, do you remember years ago when the league used to do presidential debates? We originated that. And a lot of times I'll get, oh, yeah, now I know. So tailor it to whoever your audience is. Secondly, know your material. Hopefully, well, I'm sure in this case, when Jane was accepted this interview, she asked the interviewer, what's this going to be about? And was told it was about the current election laws. So she really had to brush up on her current election laws to make sure that any question that was thrown at her, she had the answers for. And be aware of the myths on the topic. The reporter threw out a couple of them about early voting being a vehicle, or election day voting being a vehicle for people who might commit fraud, who had already voted early. And the second one was, now I'm forgetting, oh, that, oh God, what was
Yeah,
it?
you had a couple of them about fraud.
Fraud, yes.
So that connected to the internet and
Yeah.
Right, connecting to the internet. And that's always such a silly one, but it is, if you ever heard of anybody challenging connected to the internet, all they need to do is to walk in on election day and ask where the internet is. It just isn't there. Also ask about where the interview is going to air or publish if it's a print interview, and then you will be able to perhaps add in some local information. So for instance, if this is being aired in Detroit, you might want to talk about all the early voting places in Detroit. Have details and background at hand just in case. I mean, if that reporter had dug a little deeper on the ID question and maybe challenged the league member about campus or student votes or something like that, make sure you got it all right. Even if you have a cheat sheet in front of you, it's very important that we give the right answers. And if you don't know, it's safer to say, wow, I'm not versed on that, but I'll get the answer for you right after this interview. In the meantime, please remember that elections are always safe and secure, which goes to the next bullet point, diverting to the Sacco message when the conversation gets off track. Just as politicians can do it, so can we do it when we're being interviewed, when we want to get that immediate message out there. And end the message on a positive note. In this case, the league member talked about poll workers and, you know, the good news about them. They're such wonderful people. And then she also told people to vote. So she ended on a good note, and that's what we want to see. Okay, we're going to go now to a personal conversation. This is our next skit, and we're
Paula, how about if I get
Yes.
to do my info stuff first?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can you go back to the PowerPoint, please?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. No problem. We didn't rehearse this in case you.
No, we did a little bit.
We planned it, but you know.
Wasn't very nice about that. Should have practiced what she preached.
Dan, not on mute. I'm not on mute. They heard you.
This isn't a media interview,
Sorry.
thank goodness. So
Didn't know where it
Hold
came
on,
from.
hold on.
Put it on mute.
Because my screen lit up. Mhm.
Okay, is this it, Denise, or am I on the wrong slide?
I can't see it yet.
Isn't that terrible?
Screen is up. They can't hear your screen.
Nancy, if you want to mute, that's okay.
I will.
Can you see it now?
Nope, not yet.
Jesus. Hold on, I'm starting over again.
Okay. It's a cranky computer.
Oh, gosh.
Well, I'll just, I can tell
Just
you.
start talking off the
Yeah,
cuff
yeah,
while I
yeah,
find this.
sure. No, I was just gonna say, so a lot of the inspiration for my thoughts in this section, well, it comes partly from a social justice group that I'm part of. It's an interfaith group here in Kalamazoo. We practice a lot of the things that are talked about in here as things you can do. But also I'm drawing on the conversations that I have with my brother-in-law because we're very close, but I don't share his views and he doesn't share my views. And so it makes for some interesting times sometimes. So yeah, if you just go down to the personal conversations thing, we'll be all set. There we go. Okay. So anyway, when we're in personal conversation, it's just flipped. It's the opposite of when you're in a conversation with the media. In this case, it's the relationship that's the most important, not the message. So yes, sometimes the message is, important to you, but you have to remember that maintaining the relationship is more important than conveying something, some particular information. Okay, let's get myself. All right, so the boundaries here, when we're talking with our family members, friends, or it might even just be acquaintances like your neighbor or somebody in one of your social circles. These are all ongoing relationships. Some of them have higher stakes, like especially family members, and some are more intimate than others, but they're all meaningful relationships. You're going to see these people again. So trust is paramount to a relationship, especially when you're talking about a difficult topic. Respect and honesty are key to a good media interview, and those are also vital to a challenging conversation that you're having with someone you care about. But as with a reporter, you can opt not to discuss a certain topic or question with a family member or a friend, or you can decide when it's an appropriate time and setting for that discussion. It's like, some nights I'm just too tired to talk about politics with my brother-in-law. So what are the goals? First of all, as I've mentioned, you want to maintain and nurture that relationship, while at the same time, and this can be hard sometimes, but while being true to who you are. So showing respect and compassion will help you achieve the first two goals. All right, we can move to the next one. So what are the tactics? So listening is really hard. We tend to hear a little bit and then we start formulating our response or our rebuttal, especially if we're in kind of a fraught conversation. If it helps, and I don't know that this formal of a thing would work with a friend or a family member, but if it does, maybe you could actually even set a timer and then have each person take a turn talking for, like 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever, while the other person just tries really hard to listen without interruption, without response, and just really listen. And so sometimes setting that time limit can actually help you just calm your mind and listen instead of trying to respond. So when you're listening, you can also check your understanding by asking clarifying questions that aren't judging. So it's that old, what I hear you saying is, or do I understand that right? By asking those kind of questions, the person will realize you're just asking a question for clarification. You're not trying to pass judgment on them or convince them that something they said is wrong, or whatever. So once you have heard and understood what your loved one or your acquaintance is saying, then affirm whatever common values the two of you have that pertain to that topic. So maybe it's, something like, well, I know we both care deeply about the future of our community. You might have totally different, ideas about how best to get there, but at least you could say that you both care about that. Now, if your conversation partner expresses misinformation, you can explain how you came to your own conclusion, and or you might want to offer the so-called truth sandwich. So this is something I think a lot of us have learned, where first you state what the fact is, and then you try to explain the middle of the sandwich, how whatever their misinformation is misleading. If there's faulty logic, there's no context given, perhaps it's a stereotype, it's some kind of, fact from the past that's outdated, if it's an easy answer or a conspiracy, or if it's just like an emotional appeal. If you can figure that out about what they're saying. And then after you give that part, then you would again state the factual information as the alternate causal explanation for whatever it is that's in question. But if that's too much, you can maybe just, like I said before, you can explain how you came to your own conclusion. And then at the end, it's good to affirm your relationship, even if the two of you still hold widely divergent viewpoints, but just to get back to what's really important, which is the relationship. Okay, now we're ready for our demonstration.
Okay, thanks, Denise. We're now going into skit number 2, which is a discussion at a family dinner between Uncle Jerry, who is going to be played by Detroit League's Deborah Bunkley, who's waving there, and our league member, who is Uncle Jerry's niece, is going to be played by Pre Burnham from the Marquette League. There's Pre. So take it away, you guys.
Hey there, sweetie. How's my liberal Lizzie doing?
Oh, fine, Uncle Jerry. How are you?
Oh, just fine. Trying to keep up with all you Democratic do-gooders. How are things in that ladies group thing you belong to?
Oh, you mean the League of Women Voters, Uncle Jerry. And it's not Democratic or Republican. We're nonpartisan, remember? It means we don't support any candidate or any party.
Yeah, sure you don't. I bet you have a Biden sign in your front yard.
Nope, because I'm the voter services chair of my league. I'm forbidden from having any partisan signs on my lawn that support a candidate. I can't even make a campaign contribution to a candidate. We want people to trust the league, so they'll use our election information. So I can't show any preferences for any candidates.
Oh, geez, don't get me started on the election. You and I both know that there's still a lot of problems with that 2020 election. Some people keep hoping we'll forget about a lot of that stuff, but excuse me, let patriots like me want to keep it at the top of my mind or not forgotten.
Uncle Jerry, you and I will never agree on that. So let's just stop talking about it.
Oh, fine. Let's talk then about all the illegals who are voting.
What makes you think that?
Well, it's so darn easy to register. I'm sorry, I got to roll it down. My computer's acting up now. It's so darn easy to register. It's so darn easy to register to vote these days. You can even do it online.
You can only do it online if you're a U.S. citizen. And I think you'll agree that immigrants are so worried about getting deported, that they're never going to do anything that brings attention to them. If they vote illegally, they can get fined, imprisoned, or deported. Why would they risk that?
Okay, but here's another thing I worry about. What about all those ballots floating around those schools that use that early voting? My gosh, they're bound to get lost or double used or thrown out by one of those poll workers.
Well, I agree, Uncle Jerry. It is a lot to keep track of. But I went and visited one of the early voting sites at the presidential primary election. You wouldn't believe what a well-oiled machine it is. They have cages where all the ballots are locked up at night and systems where everything is recorded in the morning and again at night to keep track of every single ballot. You should go and check it out too. There are observation cameras on all the time, so no one can get away with anything. And did you know that until Proposal 2 passed a couple of years ago, we were one of the only states in the country that didn't do a statewide audit after each election? So the good news is now we do.
Well, Lizzie, you told me something I didn't know.
And here's something else. You know, after every election, I go down to the county building and I watch the group called the Board of Canvassers. They make sure that every precinct, including the early voting sites and absentee boards, have filled out all the paperwork correctly. They double check the totals to make sure they tally up the precincts, to make sure everything balances. It's like another kind of arithmetic audit before they certify the election. And there are both Democrats and Republicans doing it. So it's got checks and balances. How about if you go with me after the August election? It's open to the public and you can see how it all works. It's just amazing.
Well, maybe. I might be busy, but we can try.
I'll come pick you up. I'll call you when I make a shift commitment.
You know, Lizzie, you've always been my favorite bleeding heart.
And I love you too, Uncle Jerry. We just have to agree to disagree on some things. But I'll see you at our next dinner.
All right.
Yay for Pri and Deborah. Thank you. Hold on just a minute. I got to try again, you guys. I know this is scary for you.
We've been traumatized.
Okay. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about our reflections after this. And this kind of fits in with some of the goals and tactics Denise talked about. Humor is sometimes the best way to go. You know, Uncle Jerry calls her Liberal Lizzie. Maybe Lizzie could think up a name for her kooky Uncle Jerry or something, but you just got to laugh at some of this stuff. And it really does take the sting out of it. You know, and as Denise said in her comments too, this is our family. These are people that we're going to see 5 times a year, maybe, and until one or both of us dies. So we got to stay connected to them unless something is so abhorrent that you just can't tolerate each other. But do your best to be civil. That really does help maintain the peace in the entire family, not just between you and the person that you have a disagreement about. Make it personal. This league member talked about how she was the voter services person, and she knew very well that she could not have any kind of a sign on her front yard. And just by speaking that way, hopefully Uncle Jerry is going to drive by her house and see she doesn't have a sign in her front yard. She also refused to engage about the 2020 election. Did you notice that? She was ready to shut it down after that, but Uncle Jerry just switched gears and talked about something else. She knew that there was not going to be any way that they could change each other's mind about the 2020 election. She did ask about examples of the bad information about the illegals voting, or yes, all the illegals had voted more than once. To tell you the truth, that's a little bit tricky to go into that, and you may want to judge whether this is worth it, because if they start spewing the conspiracy theory that they heard about on some talk radio show, unfortunately, they might very well believe this. It's not just something that they think is a possibility. And if you can't, so be careful how deep you want to go into that, because it could get kind of tricky if you get into something you just can't argue your way out of. And this league member, I thought it was great that she invited her uncle to actually come to participate in the process by coming to a board of canvassers. There's so many things, and we all know there's so many things that any voter can do to make them feel more secure about our elections. Go see the tabulators when they're being checked before an election. Walk into the precinct on election day, ask where the internet is, board of canvassers. There's so much, this is all so public. And if we could get some of those people who are so convinced it is not secure to come to some of those public offerings, I think it would be a lot better for all of us. So thank you to our 4 actors for helping us out here. And I'm going to flash now onto some resources that we've talked about. Denise, do you want to talk about these first couple, since I know you went to that training?
Yeah, just as with so many things, LWVUS has some helpful materials on their in the league management area of the website. So especially the tips for media interviews and the media advisory template, that's like, so you can do a press release, it's got a template right for it. And then with the personal conversations, there was one source I found that was helpful, that was actually for talking specifically about health issues, with the whole vaccines and all that kind of stuff of late. There, where's a need for that. And then, oh my gosh, well, the other one, I'd have to look it up to see exactly what it is. I don't even remember, but something else that I found that was helpful.
And I wanted to mention the LWVMI communications guidelines. I saw that Kathy Poor was on this call, and she really was the guiding force behind this guidelines. And it's really a wonderful resource that covers everything from the press releases to having conversations to being civil to everything. So please do look it up. It is on the LWV only page under communications. Additionally, the first workshop that we had is also on that page, as this one will be. So I figure I should cut out the first 5 minutes of this where I had all the tech trouble, but.
Me too. I was just going to say, the presentation that I couldn't remember what it was, it's from the Democracy Truth Project. It's called Building Resilience to Mis and Disinformation. So I just put that title in the chat so you can see it. But that's a very detailed PowerPoint about how to identify and then counteract mis and disinformation. It's very helpful if you haven't had a chance to see it already.
Now we thought we'd just try to open up the floor and talk amongst ourselves here about some difficulties or successes you've had, either with the media or with a family member who disagrees with you, or anything concerning having communications with your family or the media. Would anyone like to share something? If you'd like to get off mute and just chime in, we'd love to talk to you.
Might have to unmute yourself first.
Usually when I push the space bar, it does that. I had a reputation for saying it was on my mind. I probably still do. But anyways, one of the things that I did is discovered the book Crucial Conversations. Many of you probably have heard of it. Not only did I discover it, but I listened to the book about 8 times, and I brought the training into the state of Michigan in the Department of Human Services, and also brought it into civil services. So now a large number of state employees are trained in Crucial Conversations, and I became a trainer. It's a 16-hour training. And so these kinds of meetings are helpful, and you get little skills, but knowing what the skills are and being able to perform those skills are 2 different things. And one of the things that Crucial Conversations is really, really good at is that they describe conversational skills in a way that you can carry it with you. And the training costs, I think, about $2,000 now, so you're probably not going to do it. But one of the things that they have is there's an iBook. It's an enhanced Crucial Conversations book, and it includes videos, and it is done almost like the training, and it's $15. It's an iBook. It's Apple. And it's called the Enhanced Crucial Conversations. And one of the things that it does is, the first thing to go is motivation, your motivation. So your motivation is to explain the league. Your motivation is to let your uncle know what you're supposed to do, stuff like that. And there's a point where you're insulted and your motivation is to kill that so-and-so, okay? And usually your motivation changes before you're aware of it. And that's one of the things that Crucial Conversations helps you, is to note what it is and find ways to bring your brain back into the conversation. So that's my sales pitch for Crucial Conversations.
Thanks, Donna. Maybe we can add that book to our list of resources, that last slide, so that when we post these, that'll be on there. Thanks. Marcia.
Sure. Thanks, Paula. I had a conversation with an MLive journalist on PFAS. It had nothing to do with politics, but we were talking in terms of us in a particular PFAS group, giving him information for him to write an article. And he reminded us that he writes for his audience. He doesn't write for the person giving him the information. And I kind of mold that around, so I guess I found that useful. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcia. That was great. Follows right along with the message that Denise was mentioning too. Mary Jo.
So I've got a few things, but I'll wait till people talk about their own experiences. But if somebody asks me a voting question or anything to do with politics, I distinguish between, am I acting as a league person? Are they asking me because I'm a league person, or because it's my sister? And so I think you just have to make that really clear, and lots of times I will be answering somebody, just a neighborhood or something. And then they'll invariably say, well, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? And I'll say, well, first of all, I want to tell you that, the league itself is nonpartisan. And you know what? I don't really share that with anybody either, because, people do know me as being with the league. And then, well, how come all your stuff is Democratic? Well, we are, a progressive group, and if it happens to be with the Democrats, then that's where it lay. But we certainly have done things the Republicans like too, like transparency. But anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Mary Jo.
Yeah, just a quick comment on that thing about our positions. Something that I've read that made a lot of sense to me is that, we always say we take positions after careful study and the consensus process. So it's not just like we pick them out of a hat or whatever, but also just that over the years, as the political scene has become more and more rigid and divided, it's that, you know, like our positions, we didn't create our positions to fit a certain side. The sides have rigidified into certain sides on issues. So I think that, you know, I don't know if you want to have that long of a conversation with somebody, but that's a point to keep in mind.
So many of our older positions were supported by both parties at certain times. So it has, you know, had nothing to do with politics back then.
I saw Deborah's hand go up.
I want to make a few comments. One being, you know, depending on where I'm at, one thing I would say right off the back is I have an advantage over you, being a woman of color and having to always be on point about certain things. And in certain communities, they know me as a league person because that's how I've introduced myself. So I always, no matter what, took me a while, but through experience, I've learned I always had that hat on in certain places. But when you don't know who I am, like in the bank, and this guy just turned around and made a comment about illegals voting. And the one thing I had to zero in on is I have his attention. I don't know what his luggage is, like he could be mentally challenged or something. So I just made emphasis on the importance of voting. So I took a spin on it to show, because you don't know who's listening to you. You don't know who's watching you. So what point do I want to get across for those who are hearing me is the importance of voting. And that's what I always focus on. So no matter if I have my hat on or not, it's like I always have it on, but I always emphasize how important it is to vote in the primaries and in the general election and locally. And if they realize that I am a league person, I always make sure they know that it's local, state, and federal. And I throw off that vote 401. So I have to do that. Thank you.
So Deborah, I was gonna say, that's fantastic that you've got like your personal SACO, right? Your single overriding communications objective, and you pivoted with that guy to your SACO, and that was like perfect. So yay.
And remaining calm.
Yes, that's very good. Very good.
Anybody else?
Yeah, you know, some people in my family are so thoroughly convinced of some conspiracy theories, and you just can't even go there. I mean, because some of them are really far out, and I say, where in the world are you getting this? You know, and there's lots of places that we probably don't even know about that they get those. And a lot of people are listening to them, and it's scary. And I don't know. So we kind of, that family, we just don't talk about politics at all, because there's no rationality. But I've taken a lot of your ideas here, like questioning and listening and not getting upset. So maybe it'll be better.
Well, at least you know to avoid those issues so that the family can stay together. And I think you're doing the right thing there. Because you probably know that no matter how much you talk to those family members, you're not going to change their mind.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's probably true.
Yeah. I see that there's a question in the chat. I don't know if the person who put it there would like to talk about it, but it says, I'd like to put up signs, but my husband who is on the board feels we can't. Any suggestions for us? So when my husband was still living, I debated about stuff like that. And I decided that we could make political contributions in his name. Well, he had different last names, and so that made it even easier. Some people didn't even know we were married. But so he would make the political contributions, and we just didn't put up any signs. I never put any bumper stickers on any of our vehicles. So I don't know, that was our personal way of dealing with it, but I don't know, other people maybe have other views on it or other things you've done.
I've heard some people say that half the yard belongs to each other. But the problem is that the candidate driving by where you're moderating a forum on Friday night doesn't know about the halves. And I just think it's a risk if you're in a president or a vice president or a voter service person, you just, especially in this society that we're living in now, where it's just so split, it's just better not to put up the signs. Mary Jo?
Of course, I always use that as an excuse not to put up signs. It comes in very handy. So these are, I have some comments that are in no particular order. So the crucial conversations, well, I used to be a hospital librarian, and that was a big thing at one point. And the idea being that if it's an important issue, you have to woman up and say something because you could be saving somebody's life.
Right.
So that's kind of the dramatic part of crucial conversations. So a friend of mine was she was a greeter in Dearborn during early voting, and you know all about this non-committed thing for Biden. So this man, apparently he thought he was going to find an uncommitted ballot. And of course, what he was going to, he could only have the nonpartisan. So I just sharing that, I don't know why, I just thought that was kind of interesting because of course, everything you look at, it's non-committed, and the poor guy, he was actually kind of angry, apparently. So I was reading an article in my Dearborn Historian about this man named Mr. Long, and they were talking about all his civic things, and this is like in the later 1800s. But one of the things he did was have them change the rules so the election hours, voting hours would be longer, so the working man could get there. And then, okay, this is silly, but if any of you are Curb Your Enthusiasm fans, which I am, you'd know that so Larry has been arrested because he gave a bottle of water to somebody in line voting in, where was he, in Georgia?
Yes.
Alabama, wherever they're not allowed to do that. And so that was just kind of fun. And then civility. So was the civility conference, which I've completely forgot about, was that recorded?
Yeah.
Is that on the website then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm
On
good.
the LWV only page under
Yeah.
communications.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And yes, someone mentioned that there are some nonpartisan signs like vote 411. There's a lot of stuff like that, or even the election hotline,
Oh.
1-866 our vote, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't, give you the candidate's name that you are supporting, but people looking at your yard would know you're supporting elections and voting in general. So, Pre?
We're gonna, and I don't put out any signs or do candidate contributions because I'm voter services, but we're gonna put out not just vote 411 signs, but thanking the clerks and the poll workers signs after the election.
Nice, nice. Deborah, did you have something else?
I just wanted to make a suggestion about, because I unfortunately have family members that don't agree with the same things that I agree with. And what I do is just pivoting, adding to what Denise does, make a contribution in their name to what they oppose. Just a thought.
Hey,
Oh, dear. Yeah, well, I don't think I would do that personally.
well, there was a big Planned Parenthood campaign a couple of years ago to send campaign donations. I don't know who
It was for Mike Pence when he was
That's
the
right.
governor of Indiana, and he was so against women's rights. It was, yeah.
Right, right.
That's where I got the idea.
Did you ever hear back from the family member for whom you made this contribution? I presume they were notified.
Yes, they just couldn't figure it out.
Oh.
I
Oh, dear.
like that.
Well, thank you, everybody, for participating. I'm
Thank you.
sorry about the tech problems we had at the beginning, but we're all among friends, right? And we've been here before. So thank you so much for joining us. This recording will show up on LWV only along with the slides. Our next and final workshop is on April 24th at 7 o'clock. The registration link also on the LWV only page. Denise, can you just say something quickly about our speaker that night?
Yeah, it's just she's a journalism professor at Western Michigan University, and she has a whole project going about helping people enhance their media literacy. And part of that is knowing how to recognize and then deal with mis and disinformation. And so, I mean, there are a plethora of presentations and people talking about mis and disinformation, which I think is fantastic. This is just like yet another opportunity to sharpen your skills on that. And she has like some pretty straightforward, tools to offer. So just, if you want to hear yet again about that topic, you're welcome to come.
And last comment, Mary Jo, unmute.
Has anyone, this came up in new media of Facebook, has anybody lost their access to Facebook? Okay, because apparently that's happened to some leagues nationwide.
Grosse
Oh,
Point
yeah.
lost theirs for about 6 weeks,
Yeah.
about a year ago.
Do they know? Oh,
No, they don't know why. They can't get any answers. It's
okay.
frustrating. Sally, I know you've dealt with this a little bit.
I keep getting warnings that we're going to be done, and I've started deleting them because they're trashing everything up. But they say that I've posted illegally, and
Yeah, I think that's what these people are getting, stuff like
No,
that.
that's a spam. That's a thing. And I
there's
will
a
tell
link
you,
in a lot
I
of
am
them that
really, really good at this stuff, and I bit. And the reason that I bit is because it was just the kind of thing that Facebook does, okay? And so I bit, and as soon as I bit, I mean, the second that I did that, I said, I made a mistake, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, and so I immediately went in and changed my password for the league's thing. By the way, I've never made this mistake on my personal account, had to do it with the league. Okay. So the thing is so I immediately changed. I said, now I'm safe. Yay. Okay. I caught it. No, because it's all run by bots. And so then I was refused. They were going to close the thing because a porn thing was sent out. Luckily, it was never posted because their bot, Facebook's bot, took it off. But they were not going to let me have advertising, all kinds of stuff like that at the beginning. And I was madly trying to get in touch with them, saying, it's been hacked and stuff like that. You can't do it. You just can't do it. I mean, I tried for weeks. I tried every which way to do it, and I wasn't able to do it. This now once, so when they got rid of the porn thing, okay, the next thing they did very quickly was a religious thing, and they sent it out. They bumped it off. The league credit card was on there. Okay. And I mean, it was a mess. Anything that says you used something legally or broke a copyright kind of stuff, it's just not true. And they're
Delete it.
Wow.
It took me
Thank you again. Thank you
Okay.
again to Deborah, Marcia, Pri,
And Donna.
and Donna. We so appreciate you being our actors, and have a great evening, everybody. And thanks for listening and participating.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.